What's going on, guys? It is Murdering here, back with another Champion Spotlight video. Today we're going to be kicking off the brand new Shadowkin faction, talking about Yoshi the Drunkard. Yoshi the Drunkard is going to be the upcoming Fragment champion, so I'm going to give you as much information as possible about where you can use him, the kind of best synergies that I found in my personal testing to make sure you are all set for when you get this champion and you know exactly how you want to use him for your account progression. So first, as always, let's start and go over his champion aesthetics. Alright guys, so as we can see, this new champion is absolutely awesome for the Shadowkin faction here. He is a legendary support based champion. He's got a mean looking tattoo. He's a very heavy individual. A lot of cool things about this guy. He does have his container of wine very close on his belt. Another one, as we can see, on his staff there. So overall, I think he's an awesome looking champion. We do even have the double swords on the back of his belt here, just in case he wants to inflict additional damage. So overall, I think they did a great job with this champion design for this Fragment fusion. Let's go over his skills and see what his animations have to offer as far as looks go. Alright guys, so the first thing we do have here is going to be, he does have a 19% speed aura in all battles. Outside of that, let's go ahead and take a look at his A1 ability here. It's going to be Strong Boost attacks. One enemy has a 3% chance of placing a stun debuff for one turn. Now, all of his attacks, as I can see here, just his A1 and A2 are in fact going to be attack based. So let's go ahead and slap this Incubus and see what this A1 actually looks like. It's pretty much a very basic overhead slam. However, I did notice that light blue kind of shockwave that did emit from it, so that was definitely very cool. Moving on to the A2, Flaming Spirits, we do have a 2-turn cooldown on this, attacks 2 times at random. Not a huge fan of skills that are at random. I would much prefer straight AoE, hits the same target twice, or just a single target ability. However, we take what we can get here. Has a 75% chance of placing 50% decrease accuracy and HP burn for 2 turns. So let's go ahead, see if there's anything cool about the animations for this A2 of Flaming Spirits. Okay, really cool ramp up. Both of the attacks did go to the same target. I am curious to know if there is a different effect if they do split up, so that's something I'm going to be looking for when we cycle through this again. Moving on to his A3, we have Battletoads. This is a 3-turn cooldown, placing a 50% increased attack buff and a 50% increased accuracy buff on all allies for 2 turns. Also has a 50% chance of placing a True Fear debuff on all allies for 1 turn, having a 75% chance instead of 50% chance if there is attack up on the enemy. So this is pretty strong. This is kind of a direct counter to someone like an Arbiter or pretty much anybody with an attack up, but mostly an Arbiter as the most common champion in this game. So while we're not doing any damage, let's see if there's any cool aura that goes around this guy when he in fact does use his A3 here. Okay, so they're sticking with the kind of blue wind effect that we did see from the A1. Can't really complain. Moving on to his passive Hardier. Fills this champion's turn meter by 4% each time an enemy receives a buff. This is very strong if you know how Valkyrie works. She requires accuracy to lower the turn meter and increase the turn meter of herself when the enemy team places buffs on them. So this requires no accuracy, as we can see, and here's the A2. Once again, both going towards the same target. Maybe we'll get lucky when we go down, but back to the passive, I think it's very strong. Cycling through all of these things, we did just see the True Fear. Okay, that was the effect I was looking for, that A2 splitting up the balls of fire. I'm pretty sure there's some type of alcoholic flaming drink being thrown there. I can't really see it happens too fast, even though this is 1-time speed, but overall I think the champion looks cool. I think his kit is extremely strong. I'm really excited to show you what this guy can do, because in my opinion, this is one of the stronger Fragment champions I've ever seen come into this game here. So with that being said, let's go ahead and move on to masteries, how I think you should gear him, and then we'll get on to some synergy and where I can showcase him in live action so you can kind of see where he can fit in your account for your progression. Alright guys, so if you have Yoshi the Drunkard and you're wondering, Murder, how can I gear this champion? what's going to be most optimal. I'm going to give you how I geared this champion, my recommended gear sets for every single slot of gear, and you can then determine if that's going to fit what you like the best. One thing to keep in mind, Plarium did say when they released the new shadowkin faction, they were really focused on giving all of these champions a lot of damage, kind of fitting the overall theme of the shadowkin. So with that being said, I'm always going to recommend crit rate and crit damage on these champions, regardless of what their role is, just to give them that additional edge, since from what I've seen so far from Yoshi, he does do a fair bit of damage. So let's go ahead and start with the banner. I'm always going to recommend accuracy on the banner. I think the True Fear is way too strong to overlook, and I'm also a huge fan of the decreased accuracy and HP burn. So that's why I'm going to recommend accuracy for the main stat, speed in the substat as always, attack percent if you're okay with going with damage. If you need the survivability, you can definitely elect to go with HP or defense percent. Moving on to the neck piece, this is another situation where I would recommend crit damage to kind of get the most out of this champion, since he does have lots of viability as doing some damage on top of being a very strong support role champion. So whether you go crit damage on the neck, HP, or defense for survivability, you're always going to want accuracy as the substat for that necklace. Moving on to the ring, you want an attack ring if you're okay with damage, HP or defense if you're looking for more survivability, or you can do some type of hybrid build with attack on the ring, HP and defense percent on the substats, or vice versa with HP and defense on the ring and attack percent on those substat rolls. Now we have the boots here, and as always, I'm going to recommend speed for the main stat on the boots, followed by accuracy, and the remaining substats are going to depend on what you choose to do with your gloves. So I'm going to quickly skip over the chest piece, move on to the gloves. I recommend crit rate on the gloves if you're okay with going with damage. If you want more survivability, definitely go with HP percent. With that being said, that's going to relay back to the boots, where you can either focus on HP percent if you elected not to go with the crit rate gloves, or you can fill in the remaining crit rate as you see fit on those boots to finish off 100% crit rate, or as close to 100% as possible based on the amount you are getting from your gloves. As far as substats on the gloves, you can fill that in with accuracy, speed, HP, and attack percent. For the chest piece, you can go with accuracy, chest, if you are struggling to hit the thresholds for whatever content you want to use Yoshi the Drunkard, or you can go with something like an attack percent if you're looking for damage, or finally HP percent for survivability if you are worried about your other champions and whatever content you're using and you want to make sure he lives. So as we can see, you've only gone over 6 of the total 9 pieces, and there's tons of customization you can actually do for this champion. As far as the weapon, helmet, and shield, all you're going to be doing is focusing on speed, accuracy, and filling in any other stats that you need, whether it be crit rate, HP, defense percent, or attack percent. Let's go over the masteries that I do recommend. This is going to be the mastery tree that I suggest for you guys, taking Eagle Eye all the way in the bottom to boost that accuracy gain. I really do like Rapid Response as well as Arcane Celerity. I think these are two very strong abilities having to do with debuffs and buffs, since he does apply both of them quite often and frequently on the A2 and A3 conditionally. I think it's very strong and gives him very superior turn meter gain. Moving on to the defense tree, this is the second tree I did take. Retribution as well as deterrence are going to be very strong factors, because he does have that stun, even though it's not 100% chance on the A1. Any chance it gets to use his A1 if the team is debuffed, or if it meets the requirement of getting hit to counter attack based on those masteries, is going to be an extremely strong addition to you. Now, you could go the offensive tree, however I probably wouldn't recommend it even if you did want a damage build, because what this guy offers is way too strong to just simply focus on damage. Now that we've gone over that, let's go over this champion's base stats and how I personally geared him and gave him his total stats. As you can see, he has 19,650 base health, 1,299 base attack, which is rather high for a support based champion, kind of going along the lines of plarium wanting shadowkin to do lots of damage regardless of their role, 103 speed, which I'm definitely very happy about, 15 crit rate, 50 crit damage, 40 base resistance, which is nice, and 20 base accuracy. Now as far as the stats that I personally gave him, we have 47,599 health, 3,233 attack, 1,784 defense, 276 speed, 105 crit rate, 185 crit damage, 129 resistance, we weren't really focusing much on there, and finally 362 accuracy. So with that being said, this is the optimal build that I personally chose. You can try to mimic this, or you can go your own route and see where he does in fact fit in your progression. Now what we're going to do is I'm going to take him through some dungeons, show you some possible synergies he can have, so you have a nice way to look out on where you actually want to use this champion. Alright guys, so the first bit of synergy that I do want to talk about is going to be inside the Doom Tower with the Frost Spider here. Now, as we can see, I'm using Yoshi as the leader here. I have Godseeker Aniri, Lydia, Septimus, as well as Deacon. Now the main synergy I do want to talk about here, he does have HP burn, decrease accuracy, which is going to be fantastic for the Frost Spider, as in this current rotation, this is pretty much considered the Frost Spider rotation of the Doom Tower. So the best synergy I found is HP burn, decrease accuracy is absolutely huge for this guy. However, one thing I want you guys to pay attention to, since he's giving increased accuracy and increased attack, I wanted to pair him with someone like Godseeker Aniri or Alonicus, anyone you can think of that extends the durations of buffs. What this is going to do is going to keep cycling the debuffs required to make this Frost Spider pretty much a joke, and at the same time it's going to keep increased attack and increased accuracy on your entire team with an extender based on the cooldowns Yoshi has and any buff extender you would have. So I really enjoyed this. The buffs are pretty much going to stay on these champions at all time unless the spider actually strips the buffs when freezing them. One good thing that's working with us here is going to be Yoshi does have a decreased accuracy on him. As you can see, it did slightly desync there. After, this can be simply overdone by taking it off of auto, putting it on manual, kind of cycling through abilities really quickly, and then going back to making sure that these buffs never fall from your team. But even though it was only one buff, we are getting frozen here, because as I showed you from my overall stats, I didn't pay too much attention for resistance. If I wanted to do resistance, I would have probably given him about 300 resistance. That plus increased accuracy is going to be so strong here with hitting those thresholds that you actually would need to clear this Frost Spider. So that's my biggest recommendation in any type of dungeon content, Doom Tower. Pair Yoshi with someone that extends buffs, and you're going to have the critical buffs throughout the entire match. So the next part of the game, an important synergy I do want to talk about, is going to be the arena for Yoshi. I think this is personally where he's going to shine the most in this game, and I'm going to show you why just next. As you can see here, I'm using Kaimar, Madame Ceres, Yoshi, as well as Trunda. We are currently facing an Arbiter, Folly, Frisk, and Madame Ceres on the enemy team. So let's go ahead, take this first spin, and see how amazing this comp works. So Arbiter is going to go first. That's going to boost Yoshi's passive from 276 speed all the way to cutting them off and going next. Just for some information, my Kaimar is currently running 319 speed in immunity gear. So he was able to go from 276 speed simply with this passive based on the increased attack and boost his turn meter to above Kaimar, which is going to be huge. Now we go to the synergy where I talked about this counters Arbiter very well being one of the most common arena champions in the entire game. Having a 50% chance up to a 75% chance going to 100 once fully booked of placing true fear on enemies under increased attack. So this is huge already, and it provides attack up and accuracy up here. So as we can see, we have true fear on everybody. It already procced on Madame Ceres. Let's go ahead and get risky, try to sleep them and see if it procs Folly. It does. So Folly was slept, his passive proc, it cleansed it, and then he was true feared, so he didn't actually get a turn. This is why Yoshi is going to be so strong in the arena. It also boosts immunity champions such as Madame Ceres to having insane amounts of accuracy. I'm currently running about 678 accuracy in immunity gear, and that plus increased accuracy buff on top of her makes her very hard for the enemy to actually resist them. So what we're going to do now is pretty much A2 this Arbiter here, and it's going to be an easy one-shot, but this is why it's so important to use Yoshi, figure out what kind of arena team you're running, and he's going to be a crucial role in the arena as soon as this fragment goes live, which is why I was so excited when I first saw him introduced to the game. So the next fight I want to show you, I'm actually curious about to see how this works. We're going to do Yoshi versus a Valkyrie and see what happens here. Yoshi should initially cut them off, assuming this Sifi is going to be faster than my Kaimar. Then Valkyrie's probably going to cut in based on Yoshi's ability, then getting stripped by Madame Ceres. That's kind of what I see in my head, but let's see how this actually plays out in a live arena battle here. So this is going to be the second example of why he's so strong in the arena. Okay, so I am actually going to go first here, which is interesting. I was resisted, so I didn't have that benefit of the increased accuracy for Kaimar. So this is where speed is actually going to play against you with champions like Sifi the Lost Bride as well as Arbiter. So now we're going to use this increase buff, and even though she is slept, she also had the True Fear on her. Duchess did get a turn, but we're going to strip it, and this is just a brilliant team. I cannot get over this, and I love just watching this play out here. We're going to A2 here. We do get the extra turn. I probably should have just used that A3 ability so Rhodos doesn't completely clean out my entire team. Even though he was nerfed, everyone knows how good Rhodos is. There was Swift Parry there, so that was interesting, and we are going to end up sealing the deal there. So this is interesting, and this is an awesome team. And just another example of why this guy is going to be such a blessing for us to have in this game. And I'm going to repeat my point that I think this is one of the strongest fragment champions that's ever been introduced through the fragment system. So on top of the Doom Tower arena, I told you this would also apply to dungeons, and also this is going to be probably a crucial faction war champion once the crypt for shadowkin is actually released here. So as we can see, the crypts aren't open yet, but we should expect sometime in the future when more champions are introduced into the game and we have more time to actually develop our champions that they will release the shadowkin crypt. And I do personally believe that Yoshi is going to be a vital part to that team, especially once we get to the higher levels all the way up to stage 21. The fact that he has the True Fear, increased attack, increased accuracy, I think is going to be a very valuable asset for faction wars. Alright guys, that's going to conclude my guide on Yoshi the Drunkard, the brand new champion for this awesome, incredible new faction, Shadowkin. Let me know what you guys think. Are you going to be going after him? Where do you plan on using him? Can you think of somewhere that's different from where I've showed you in this video that you do want to use him? Any other synergies that come to mind after watching this video? Definitely let me know in the comments because I want to hear it. As always guys, if you enjoyed this content, don't forget to subscribe, turn on the notification bell so you don't miss my next upload, and I look forward to seeing you in my future Shadowkin champion spotlights that I do plan on releasing next.